Hey everybody, Thunder Hands here. My friends call me Thunder. I'm back. I was thinking last night when I was in the shower. That's where I get a lot of my good thoughts, actually. It must be the water or something, I don't know. Get in that shower and thoughts just start coming to me. I was thinking about Great Spirit, and because I talked about that the other day, and I was thinking about the cosmos and how just the earth and the relationship with the earth and the cosmos, and how probably the whole universe is in one cell of our bodies. We should be in oneness. We should be in realization of our oneness with the cosmos, first off. And then I was thinking about, because I've talked about belief systems before and how they form the ego, and how we can have a better relationship with the higher spirit by relinquishing the ego, or surrendering the ego, or I kind of like relinquishing better instead of surrendering. I don't know why. But I think that, when you think about the problems in the world today, it all has to do with who men think they are. And who they think they are is determined by their ego, which is a complete set of belief systems instilled in them since birth. And they're probably totally irrelevant to anything. Just a bunch of, I don't know, like a soup, We're like a soup from the teachings of our elders, our parents. So anyway, when you relinquish this ego that is really nothing, because see, we try to gain things. Our ego says, we want this, and I want that. And I think it should be this way, and I think it should be that way. Well, when you pray to Great Spirit and relinquish your ego, you get rid of some of that. And you also get rid of problems, too. Because for the most part, we create our own problems, don't we? Most of the time. Of course, other people create problems for us, too. I realize that, but those problems come from the same source, ego. Okay? So we got other people creating problems in the world, and then we got us creating problems for ourselves. Because we think, our ego, again, thinks that it should be this way or that way, or I need this, or I got to have this land, or that person shouldn't be in power, or this person's wrong and that person's right, or this is wrong and that's right. And it all comes from this part of us that really isn't part of us at all, as far as being divine or being in oneness with the creator of the universe. So in a sense, if we can figure out a way, or if you can figure out a way for yourself, as you pray to say something in the effect of, I relinquish my ego to you and I throw my burdens on you. Now that's an old thought. It's really a timeless thought, transferring your burdens, okay, outside of yourself. To the higher power, or to another power, or to somewhere else outside of yourself. And that in itself maybe is a miracle if you can do that. It's a miraculous sort of thing. I'm not saying it's hard, okay? I think miracles happen all the time. But it's kind of a miracle to transfer that energy of loneliness or struggle or whatever you might be dealing with, to transfer fear, guilt. Those are all just concepts of the ego. Okay, they're manifestations of this ego. And this has been delved into by, great psychologists like Freud and Jung, and that's all they talked about was the ego, okay, and the components of the ego, the id, and all that stuff. But when it boils right down to everything, or when you boil it down to the essence, then basically your ego is a set of belief systems. And then, of course, that goes into your subconscious, which continually yaks at you about things. So sometimes, when you're doing ritual, I was just thinking, I hope you're following here, just relinquishing that control, relinquishing the ego, maybe you actually gain more control by relinquishing the ego. Just kind of thinking out loud today, this has been coming to me since last night and through this morning. But I think that's the problem in the world. I think the problem is everybody's ego trying to step on everybody else's ego. And so this is something that I wanted to talk about in relationship, and I think it's always good to talk about spiritual things, things that might help us. That's why I do videos on presence and all that stuff. Now, to bring this to another level here in the duality, let's say down to the duality, I was looking at a picture of Putin today, and some headlines about the G20, and I don't know, I guess they kind of gave him the cold shoulder. This has directly to do with what I was just talking about in a way. It's a good segue because everybody has an ego, and everybody's a person, and everybody has feelings, okay? Even Putin, who the West has just been demonizing to the hilt, he has his thoughts, and he was a little kid once. I read about him, and he actually was a little kid once with high thoughts of serving his country and being a secret agent. Every kid has a little dream, whether it's to be a fireman. His was to be a secret agent, kind of like a James Bond type for the Russian people, for his government, and he was KGB. But by all accounts, he wasn't that, let's say, vile or low life. He was more, I don't know, just as far as we know, he was just serving in a certain capacity. Now, he may have gotten into covert ops. I don't know. I'm sure he did at times, but point I'm trying to make here is that he had his dreams. He's a person, okay? He has feelings. And so when the whole world, okay, starts dissing you, okay, and calling you, demonizing you, and your country, he's a set of belief systems, just like we all are, and he's got, like I said, stress this enough, is that everybody has feelings, and he's going to start feeling like he's pretty alone, except for the people that surround him. But if he had ideals about the world and, Russia's interaction with the world, they're seriously, let's say, squashing some of his dreams or quashing whatever. They're stamping all over his dreams. Okay. They're eliminating his desires, his what I want, again, what the ego says I need or I want, or so him being a person, he could be pushed, let's say, to the point of snapping, or the point of just losing it, or the point of what have I got to lose type thinking, because anybody can. And here he is, like the head of a superpower that has tons of nukes. And then on the other side, you got to wonder what the reasoning is behind demonizing somebody. And when you think about it, I mean, everybody's a person. Everybody that one government tries to displace, say like when we took down Gaddafi, when the USA, I shouldn't say we, because I just live here, okay, folks? But when Gaddafi got taken down, it was a horrible incident. He was a person too. Everybody's a person, okay? And whether they're branded evil or not it's subjective, okay? Doesn't have anything to do with what we may think of that person if we met them personally, or how they treated us. And are the people that are pursuing them any better? Can they say they have a clean conscience? I don't think so. So this is what I'm talking about here. And this kind of stuff is what puts us on the brink of like nuclear disaster, nuclear annihilation. Okay? It's insanity. It's insanity. Why people do this to other people over... Pick a number, pick an ideology. Stand in line. It's crazy. No, it's not crazy, it's insane. So here it is, folks. We have people not being in oneness with Great Spirit. We have people. This is what's happening in the lower duality. Okay, is this ego thing that's going on with, Russia and the West and the East and whatever, scattered to the four directions. Everybody has a different ideology. And Kissinger just came out. And I know that he is viewed by many as a dark person. He probably is, but he speaks truth too sometimes, even if it's accidentally. And his latest take on the whole situation is, remember, Kissinger's a very powerful man, and he was a very strong manipulator, and he knows exactly what's going on that level. That was his whole life. He's saying right now that the approach that's being taken towards Russia, okay, is totally bonkers, basically. Totally wrong. totally wrong, totally, destructive. Okay. He explained kind of the same thing I just did. Everybody has a view of what they want to accomplish, okay, and how they want to integrate themselves in the world. And, the effects of, this attitude towards Russia, he says, are destructive. Basically, and when he says destructive, I tend to whoa, that tends to go right along with, maybe he's, he is 90. Maybe he's throwing out some kind of warning, hey, don't do this. This is wrong. This is going to lead to not a good thing, And if you watch all the stuff trickling in from the Ukraine, the news about that, you just see it's getting worse, it's not getting better. It's getting, that whole situation, I don't even know how this thing got started almost. It's so ridiculous the way it got started. It's almost laughable because it started really small over a small incident. What it was is the West saw an opening to infiltrate and remove somebody else and stick in one of their puppets, and they did. And they followed it up with a series of but it was just like them with ISIS. Here they funded Al-Qaeda with money and weapons and all that, and that got out of control. And then they used nationalist Nazi pigs to make, get in that little opening that presented itself in Kiev, and it turned into an all-out, a revisitation or revisiting of the World War II almost, the Nazis against the Russians, and that's what's going on over there, ethnic cleansing, and that's what it turned into, okay? And no, those people don't deserve that. And nobody deserves, no country deserves, no person deserves to be, they're all sovereign countries and they all got leaders, and let the people that live in that country deal with their own leaders. Let them deal with their own leaders. We don't need to be having outside sources go in. When you think back to World War I and II, it was kind of a matter of, do or die. Being attacked, okay. Man, isn't it weird how the situation can flip-flop? Now we're doing the attacking. It's a totally flip-flop situation, a yin-yang, boop-boop situation, because back then it was Hitler attacking and trying to control the world, and now it's like the West is doing that? Hello? Doesn't surprise me. History repeats itself, and I've said this before, but it doesn't always repeat itself in the same manner or in the same locale. It doesn't have to be in Germany again that some kind of totalitarianism is developed, okay, or some kind of dictatorship. It can be in any country. History can repeat itself in any country. So we see it being repeated right here in this country. Who would have thought that, really? And the people in this country are just going along in la-la land, like, I don't think anybody is left hardly anybody that remembers how, things used to be. Okay, there used to be bad guys that were kind of really bad guys. Okay, but now everybody's a bad guy. Oh, I mean, it's just all, see, it's all perception, people. It's all perception. It's all about who you think the bad guy is, or who somebody thinks the bad guy is, or who thinks that they want to control a large portion of the world geographically. I mean, maybe financially. I mean, if you really want to get deep into it, if you control land and property, it has to do with finances, right? So people, we really got to think about connecting with spirit right now, and grandfather, and Tukashila, and doing a lot of prayer. And it's time, people, because I don't see things developing in a good way without some kind of spiritual connection. And if things continue to go on as they are, then you better have a spiritual connection. I mean, that's all I got to say, is that you better be connected on a spiritual level, because if things keep going on the way they are, they're not going to get better, are they? I mean, what do you think? You tell me. Look at some of the things that happen to the native people of this land. Same thing, actually. I was watching an older movie, because I'm a big Western fan. I was watching an older movie supposedly about the chief of scouts, Al Sieber, who worked with General Crook, I think it was, or General Miles, one of those, in the Apache Wars. He may have worked with both of them. I think it was Miles that brought him in as chief of scouts so that he could hire Apaches to fight Apaches. But I was looking at a Western, and it, like the old Western, had Charlton Heston, and it was an old Western, and it was a good one. If you like Westerns, it was a good Western, but how they portrayed the Indians, and the man that actually was chief of scouts and all that stuff was totally bogus. This, because I know this, I know all about the Apache Wars and Al Sieber and tracking, and he was one of the greatest trackers, and I'm into tracking and scouting and that type of thing, and I know the whole story inside out, and I know how the Apaches fought and all this stuff, and it was like the movie was laughable. The point I'm trying to make here is that they distort history to cover up facts about who the good guy and who the bad guys were. And it's really laughable when you see these old movies about how the Indians were always the savage ones. They were always the ones that started the trouble. Oh, really? They started the trouble, huh? Guess they lived here before the White Eyes. I think that if anybody has a claim on this land, in which they don't even claim, they just wanted to live on it, I think it would be the indigenous people. So they distort history too. They distort history to cover up, what they used to be, so that you won't find out what they are now. Okay? They cover up what they used to be, so you won't realize what you're dealing with now. Okay? Most of the people that are on the planet today don't have any conception of the genocide that happened in this country against Native Americans. They don't realize, I mean, they just watch the old movies and it was the cowboys and Indians, you know. And sure, it was the cowboys and Indians because the cowboys or the settlers were coming in and taking over everything. And the Indians were like, what's this? What's going on here? You know, they're coming into our sacred land. They're doing this, they're doing that. So that's what happened, folks, in this country. I don't know what happened in other countries. I haven't studied the history of all other countries about, you know, genocides and indigenous people, but I would presume that at one time before governments there were more tribal type people that got displaced when the governments came in. Okay? And I bet you're wondering how this all fits in. Well, it does, because it's the ego thing. It's the ego thing. I need this land. We need this continent. We need... You have to give... When I say relinquish the ego, you have to give it up to Great Spirit and say, just direct us the way we should go. Let us not intrude on others' sanctities and belief systems. Let it just... You be in control. We don't really need governments. The only government we need is Great Spirit. And then to just let it flow. Those are my thoughts on the matter. We don't need governments. We just need to let Spirit guide us. Let Great Spirit guide us. And in our personal lives, we really need to do that now, because it's come to the point where that's the only way. That's the only way. I mean, there's nothing that... It's gotten, you know, the population has gotten so large and the world has become so one unit almost, dependent, you know, financial dependence, all the central banks connected, all that stuff. It's almost like out of control. So what other avenue do we have except to go to Great Spirit, to grandfather, to grandmother, and say, look, don't know what's going on here, don't know what the master plan is, so I'm leaving it up to you. I'm leaving it up to you. Just some thoughts to consider for today. I guess I'll leave it there. Just think about some of the things I said about the ego and relinquishing it, and just remember that, you know, I'm not saying that you aren't a person or you don't have feelings, or if anything, that's going to increase your strength. Okay, because you will be in oneness again. You will be in oneness with the Great Spirit, and will put out the kind of vibe that can overcome all this stuff or protect you from it. Something to consider. Anyway, walk the red road. This is Thunder from the One Eye of the Heart. Till I see you again later.